of us argue. And because of that, we need to know how to handle our anger. Sometimes communication can be like a battlefield. It really can. And when you're in a battlefield, there's all kinds of different people. I don't know if you've ever been in war before, if you've ever gone to the battlefield before, but there's all kinds of different people on the battlefield. Some people, instead of speaking up, they clam up and they find the nearest foxhole to dive into. Amen? It's like, bullets are flying over their head. The argument is just flying like crazy. People are angry, people are mad. And what do? Woo! Right into the foxhole. I'm going to stay here until it's all over. They don't say anything. They don't speak up. They just clam up. Some people in an argument are kind of like the person that just stores up the ammunition. They have a munition depot. They don't use any weapons. They just keep storing it up. Bazooka over here, missiles over here, grenades, they're over here. They got all this stuff, piled up. I mean, it's a great big munition depot. And then it just takes one tiny little teeny weeny spark. Boom! Blew up the whole place, right? I mean, they've been storing it up. No, don't get mad, don't get angry. Just keep storing it away, put it away, put it away, put it away. And then something happens in the relationship. Somebody says something, just like, what did I say? Boom! World War III. Amen? It's crazy stuff. And then they call me. Pastor, legs are over here, arms are over here. Can you mend them all together for us, please? Really? You want me to do what? Then there are those that don't hold anything back. They're not in the foxhole. They're not storing up munitions. They are letting everything fly. Missiles, boom. They've got bazooka, boom. They've got rockets, boom. They're letting it all go all at one time. And it's like the relationship is a bloody mess. They're not holding anything back. They let it all fly. And in that kind of a situation, nobody wins. That kind of a war, nobody wins. Let me take that back. Only one person wins. And that's the devil. He's just going, yeah, look at what's going on there. I love them fireworks. Love that stuff. Keep it up. Oh, I love that display. How beautiful. He's the only one that is winning in all of that. And so we have to be careful with what we say, how we use our words. Paul says this is how you deal with anger. He says, do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. Why does God tell us that in the Bible? Well, it's because He knows us. He created us, He made us, He shaped us, He formed us. He knows us very, very well. And He knows that the longer we allow anger to stay in our heart, to stay in our mind, to reside in us, the easier it is for us to get bitter, resentful. And the anger doesn't go away, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse. You know the old phrase where, you've heard it probably before, time heals everything? No, it doesn't, not with anger. No, it doesn't. If you don't deal with it immediately, it only gets worse and worse and worse and even more destructive. And it will eventually destroy your relationships. And so you have to be very careful to resolve the anger as soon as possible. That's why it says, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Before you go to sleep at night, before you go to bed at night, have a talk. Get together. Resolve it the very best that you can. Sometimes the very best that you're able to do is just to be able to say, you know what, we've talked about this, we've talked about it, we're not seeing eye to eye. Can we at least go to sleep, and can we continue this tomorrow? You don't bury your head in the sand. You don't ignore it. You don't say, oh, okay, just for the sake of being back together again, it's all right, don't worry about it. No, you need to resolve it. People who don't resolve it, that don't have closure, what happens is that they keep shoveling it behind them. All the hurt, all the pain, all the ugliness, all the stuff that comes from anger, they keep throwing it over their shoulder. And then one day, they call me up and they say, Pastor, our marriage stinks. Have you checked your backyard lately? Because you've been piling up all that manure in the backyard and haven't been getting rid of it. That's why your relationship stinks. You haven't dealt with the anger. You haven't dealt with it and looked at the conflict and laid it out on the table and been able to try to resolve it. You just kept throwing it over your shoulder and trying to get rid of it, and it doesn't go away. It just keeps piling up, and it's a pile of junk and garbage back there that stinks to high heaven. And I only know one way to get rid of it. If you've got a pile 1,000 miles high, or if you've got a pile that's only an inch high, the same thing works for both. Here's how you get rid of it. You say, I'm sorry. You admit, I'm wrong. You confess, I shouldn't have done that. And then the other person doesn't look at you and say, oh, that's okay. Let's just forget about it. Don't do that. You're just shoveling it back in the backyard. The only way to get rid of it is to say, I'm sorry, and for the other person to then say, you're forgiven. You're forgiven. I forgive you. And when you do that, you no longer have permission to bring it up. You no longer have permission to throw it in their face. You no longer have permission to say, oh, you once did that. No, you don't get historical. You forgive. When God forgives us, does he forget it? Does he leave it alone? Does he just say, okay, I'm not going to hold that against you any longer? That's what he does. Now you learn from those things. You learn from those experiences. You try to remember that learning experience, but you do forget the hurt and the pain that somebody has caused you.